Welcome to another edition of Open-Ended. I'm your host, Adrian Babashoff, and if you're new here, welcome as well. And if you're wondering what the show is about, it's entirely dedicated to improving quality of life for both people and for the planet through liberation and independence, moving you from just surviving to thriving and living life raw. What's going on, my resilient rebels? I cannot get the resilient rebels out of my head. I think we might even have to change the show name. I would like to know from you guys if you like that. The Resilient Rebels podcast or Resilient Rebel podcast. I like Resilient Rebels because it means that we're all together. We're all rebelling against the systems and the system's thinkings, and we're creating our own world so that we can move from just surviving to thriving. I really, really like it. Resilient Rebels, guys. Just let me know what you guys think. There's in the description on the bottom. There's my email. Email me. Let me know what you guys think. So. Also, let's do some house cleaning here before we get started with episode 144, which is choosing the farm life wisely. I have experience living on the farm. I lived in a third world country. I've grown my own food. I've done extensively. I rode a horse to school, guys, so I have a little bit of some knowledge. And also, it's a big thing for me. I've researched a lot, watched a lot of videos, followed a lot of people, and we got some things to take in consideration here. But to clean up some house over here, I do pay to do this podcast, and I'm saving up to get myself out of my RV park where I live. I live in a tiny house, aka travel trailer, in a RV park, and things are getting pretty. I don't know. I'm just not liking it here anymore. I think we need to move up. Maybe we need to buy a bigger trailer. It's not conducive to food preparation and things like that. And also, I think we might progress and actually even buy a home. But I can't afford. I just need to save some money. So I only could maybe have some allotments of like 20-minute shows. So we may condense these down a little. We'll see what happens. It's hard for me not to do these shows. This is one of my favorite parts. And today is Monday for me, by the way. I record all of my shows on Monday. It's my one day off, and I'm spending it with you guys. I got my bottle of wine. I'm the World Wino. We'll go ahead and get the whistle wet. So let's jump right into it. Don't forget, guys, down below, upandinitshow@gmail.com. Let me know what you think about all this stuff. So you got to be careful. The reason why I'm going off this one is that a lot of people are thinking of moving out of the cities and into the farm. Dean from China, hey buddy, what's going on? You asked some questions, so I'm going to answer some of them for you, or just give some of my input on it. These are all just my opinions. It doesn't mean that they can't work. Maybe you can think of something else different, but I just kind of want. It's best to always dry run things in your head. Think about all the different scenarios and things that can happen, because it's very easy to move, but it's hard to move back. It's a lot of money, a lot of time and everything. So the one thing I would, let's start from my elevator thing. I did live in South America, in Uruguay, sandwiched right by Brazil and Argentina for about 4.5 years, I believe. I was 7 years old. We came back to United States of America when I was 11. I did a whole podcast, My Life in a Third World Country. I rode my horse to school. 8, 9 years old. I was herding heads of cattle. I was a cowboy, basically, almost like a gaucho, but not quite. I didn't do all the tricks and stuff that they did, but plowed fields with horse and plow. I mean, we did it the old school way, hoeing acres upon acres by hand, growing such things as zapajos over there, remolaches, and things like that. So the one thing I can tell you guys from my experience living on the farm and observing other people is it could be a green hell. And we want to make sure it's not going to be that way. I think that there's a lot of stuff we need to take in consideration before we make that move. It's definitely one of the things I've been toying with for many, many years to get my family out. But there's a couple things I think that I think that we should use that we might need. And I'm going to get to those. But first, let's talk about how this could turn into a green hell. You want to think about your own personal needs and your own personal wants. What is it? Write these things down on a piece of paper of what exactly it is that you need. Needs, I think, are more important than what you want. I want to live in the country and everything, but what do you need? Get that down. Get yourself a pros and a cons, write everything down, and really, really take some time to think about this before you make that move. And once you get what you want figured out, that's awesome. What does your significant others, your children, your wife, anybody else with you? I think with yourself as well, we are social creatures. And to isolate yourself away from many, many people, like way out in the boonies I'm talking about, I think that we should take a dry run. I love how a lot of other people who go to visit other countries to figure out if they want to live there or not, they rent first and they live through all the seasons, and they just kind of check everything out. And then they learn a lot about the area before they actually purchase something. I was really thinking about moving to Costa Rica back in the past, and I was watching tons of videos, reading blogs, any information, consuming. That's what I do, guys. I don't watch TV. I just consume information like a rabid dog who's starving. But I thought it was really cool how people got to know different areas where they're like, you know what, I necessarily don't want to be. There's tons of mosquitoes, and learning from the locals that if you just move one county over, you don't get all the bugs and everything, and the climate's a little bit more cooler, not so humid, and things like that. So I would definitely say if there's any way that you can free yourself up and you follow the lifestyle like I live, where you're mobile, you can totally do these things. You're never stuck to anything. You got 1 foot out, 1 foot out. 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You're always mobile. You can move in a drop of a hat. You got your overhead down low. You've designed your lifestyle to an alternative lifestyle design is what I've been coining it. And you're not like other people where you're tied to stuff. You're completely free and able to move about. So you need to check out what your significant others are. You could get a divorce, you know, if your significant other isn't happy, if they're not on board. And a lot of people say they are on board. I don't want to get too personal, but I know somebody very, very close that, you know, was with some people, and the people were like, yeah, I'm all in, man. That's what I want to do. But they're in love with the dream, but not the reality. A lot of people, you know, you could look around you. You know this. We all know this. Most people, 99.9% of people are unhappy, and I don't want to say too much poor, but they're not willing to do the work. And I think the biggest problem is they're in love with that idea. They're in love with the dream, but not the reality. So you got to be very, very careful of what's going to happen with your significant others and even yourself. What is your medical conditions? We're going to kind of just run through these. I hate having a time like this. This is a potty mouth podcast, by the way, so viewer and listener discretion. Sorry if I did some swear words already. It's Potty Mouth Podcast, and we're broadcasting live from my F-350 pickup truck, but we're not on the road today. I'm taking my Mondays off to hopefully record a couple shows where there's better audio quality. But getting back to it, what is your medical conditions? You know, this could mean, or, you know, your significant other, your children, your parents, whoever else you got with you, you know, this could be pretty much life and death situation. If you're way out in the country and it's going to take these people 45 minutes, 30 minutes to get to you while someone's having a cardiac arrest or something's happening, you can lose somebody. And that's pretty much the way we used to live in the old days. There wasn't just a hop, skip over to see a doctor. Sometimes, you know, it would be painful. Someone would have to sit on a horse or on a buggy, or, you know, it would take time to get out to these things. And I think we're still susceptible to those type of things. If you have some sort of health issues and things like that, you may want to think about at least fringe living a big city or some sort of city, so that you can get your medications, or in case something happens, you have safety. If not, you need to educate yourself. In my opinion, your food should be your medicine should be your food. There are tons of herbs, there's tons of things out there that could heal us. Maybe if we're going to move to the farm, we'd want to plant and surround ourselves with all the native stuff that's been working for thousands and thousands of years, and use supplements and yoga and exercise and things like that, so that we don't live in that type of condition. But I understand some people are, and you know, they're stuck with it. They're just born with it. I'm not sure if I buy that, but you know, whatever the scenario, you have some medical conditions, you may want to consider not moving way out in the middle of the boonies. So I spoke about things that you would need, and I think in order to get off the wheel, as I say a lot on this show, it's probably a saying, I don't know, if I could, maybe somebody else said it, but what I would say is we didn't get here overnight, we sure as hell ain't getting out of here overnight. And one of the other things I look at is we all need a push. We all need some money to get off of money. Unfortunately, and we got a show coming about can we live without money? And it's going to go into detail with this stuff. But unfortunately, if you don't have lots of help and you don't have community, we need to employ some machinery, or we have to employ automation and things like that. Using machines against the system, I love it. You know, everyone's scared, oh, the robots are going to do this. They got machines that take over. We're missing the point. If you utilize things, like I'm just going to run through my list right here: chainsaws, tractors, wood chippers, freezer, refrigerators, dehydrators, livestock, irrigation, All of these things, if you utilize these things and you automate them to the fullest extent you can, and you're doing what the system's doing to you, you can actually get off and not have to have a giant community, a giant labor force to be able to get things done. But what is it going to take? It's going to take money. And so what are some of those things? I would say I'm very much into earthworks, permaculture. For those of you who don't know, you should look up the word permaculture. Check out Jeff Lawton. I know I say it a lot. He doesn't even know I exist, most likely, but it's Geoff, last name Lawton, Lawton. Oh my goodness, we need to wet the whistle a little bit. It's not making sense. Check out Jeff Lawton or Bill Mollison, either one of those guys. At the end, I mean, there's a whole slew of people out there, but just put Jeff Lawton or Bill Mollison permaculture, or just YouTube permaculture. For those of you who don't have access to YouTube and stuff like that, just type in your search for podcast permaculture. There's Paul Wheaton. He's a little radical, but he's got some really cool stuff with permaculture as well, just to wet your whistle and get you guys familiar with it. But if you're going to do certain things, you want to build such things as swales, and I talked about this on the show, where we're actually going to move earth, right? We're going to make these little ditches, basically. They're called swales. There's hygge culture. There's all kinds of different stuff. If the pronunciation comes out clearly here, you guys can look at that stuff up for your own. But to dig these things by hand would take a lot of force, depending on what size of land you're going to get if you're moving out to the country. So having a tractor with a little plow on it, or a little scoop shovel on the front, I think would definitely help out for a lot of different things. I lost my horse in South America. She was old. It was one of the most catastrophic things of my life. She died in a stream. She was halfway laying in the stream trying to get out, and it scarred me for my whole entire life. I loved that horse so much. Her name was Daisy, by the way. And she was just too old. She couldn't get out. And we had a tractor. I'm not sure what happened, but I knew it wasn't going to be pretty. My father instructed me just to go home and don't look back, and just go home and stay over there. But having a tractor, you can pull animals out like this. As much as I loved my horse, if she died and rotted in that stream, it would pollute all the water where our cows are drinking, hydrating themselves and things like that. So tractors could be used for all kinds of different things. I think hauling lumber, grading, growing. I don't really think that, I'm not too much into plowing anymore, like turning the soil over, but tractors could have multiple uses, but you'd want to get a good one. I would recommend getting a diesel. As far as size, that could be a show in and of itself, but we need to run through these things quickly because I don't want to run up for too much time here. But a chainsaw, you can manufacture at your own home. They have these little brackets that attach to a chainsaw, so you can make your own 2x4s and things like that. You can make all your own custom boards just by sliding this whole deal. It's like a table, and it connects the chainsaw to it. And I mean, literally, you can make building materials. You can chop stuff for firewood. You can clear cut stuff. You can prune trees that are already dying to make room for trees that want to live. And I think you can scare neighbors away. Somebody comes to your house. What the fuck do you fucking want? What? Texas Chainsaw Massacre style, Actually, people use it for butchering too. I don't never done this before, but they said that when they butcher a big old 2-ton steer or something, they use a chainsaw to cut straight down the center to cut the spinal cord in half or something. Seems like it would put a bunch of bone shards in the meat, but hey, each to their own. Freezer, a deep freezer, which I just purchased today. I definitely, on a side note, would say for preparation for this a lot of people are asking me about the reset and a recession and all this kind of stuff. I started talking about a recession, I think, last year, and trying to talk to some stuff. Check out what I was talking about back there. But for now, very quickly, I would definitely recommend, if you can get your hands on a deep freezer, get one. Make sure it goes 0 or below. It's adjustable, a very deep freezer. And start stocking up on some food. Start stocking up on some meats and vegetables and stuff like that. We don't have time to go into it today, but I just purchased one for myself. I might purchase 2 of them. And I got a 20 cubic foot one, a very large one. I also have an auxiliary one, and we definitely want some generators and things like that with extra gas on hand, and that's a whole subject matter in itself. I like to have 6 about 60 gallons worth of gas, and there's a whole rotation thing that we could do, we should talk about. But yeah, freezers, refrigerators. If you're going to be farming, you are going to be producing meats, hopefully. You're going to be producing nuts and berries and all kinds of vegetables and fruits and stuff like that. And you're going to want to, it gets crazy. Living on the farm, my experience, sometimes there's a huge abundance. And sometimes you get bored of like eating zucchini and potatoes every single day. But there's ways that you can process them and you can freeze them. And I think that definitely having a freezer would be a plus. There's also these walk-in, I've seen people, I forget what it's called. It's this little mechanical thing that actually tricks an air conditioner. And now you're not going to make a freezer out of this thing, but you can make a giant walk-in refrigerator. Well, it's well insulated, say a tool shed, and then you put like one or two air conditioning units, window units in there. And what this machine does, it hooks up to the electrical and it keeps these things firing. And I've actually seen them on some farms where they have a whole walk-in refrigerator and you can build your own. So a dehydrator, I think, would definitely, it's been many, many years. I've dehydrated mushrooms and kale and spinach and carrots, apples, bananas, even strawberries, believe it or not. They turn into these little tiny sugary things that taste really good. A dehydrator would definitely be a tool. And I'm talking about the electric, not solar. There is some that you can look up for yourself where you can build them off solar, but I have my problems with black spray paint, black paint in general, pigments in paint. You're drying your food with chemicals, and I just don't really like that. So you have all this extra food too that's going to happen, and I'm going to say this one really quickly. One of the newest things I've been working on for myself, and can't really broadcast too much experience on it because I'm dry running it in my head, is actually to utilize worms. Some people have asked me about compost, if we can do some explanations on it, some foolproof stuff. And I got a whole show coming down the pipeline, but I'm gonna give you guys a hint. What I'm working on is worms, so that you don't have to turn compost. You don't have to do a whole lot of work. And guess what? You buy worms once, they multiply, and they keep multiplying as long as you keep giving them food. Next thing you know, you have these worm castings, right? And you have these workers that are eating day and night, depending on what climate you live in. But if all the excess food that you can't eat, you start giving to them, they produce compost for you. And some of the best, richest compost, which we're gonna go into detail about, you can't get anywhere else. It's the best, to me, worm castings is the answer for many, many things. So I was actually even thinking about foraging to feed worms, or growing such things as moringa, which is called the tree of life. And it grows abundant. It's got all the vitamins and minerals to sustain human and plant life, or human and animal life. For if you just ate that, supposedly. So let's get into the next thing. Yeah, tools. You're going to have a lot of things on the farm that are breaking, fences and stuff like that. You want hammers. You always want to buy good shit, guys. Old timers. A lot of my friends, they're dead now because they're old, but a lot of the old guys from experience says you can't afford to buy cheap tools. Buy good tools. And you're going to need a lot of these things. A power drill, good hammers, hand saws, sawzalls, generators, air compressors. These things will make your life a lot better. Mechanics tools, definitely a plus if you've got such things as chainsaws and lawnmowers and wood chippers. And we didn't talk about wood chipping, did we? Yeah, I think I went right over that one. Well, wood chipper, definitely a wood chipper to chip all the wood and stuff that you have. It helps develop soil on your property. Again, we don't have too much time to go into that. But wood chippers are worth their weight in gold if you're going to use it on large scale. You may want to consider renting things like this if you don't have the money. Renting a chainsaw, a tractor, and things like that, if you have accessibility to these things. And if you're just starting out, and you got to go, depending on what part of the world you're at, because I know we got listeners from all over, Germany and Canada, Japan and China, Russia, and all over the place, Indonesia, Africa. But depending on where you're at, if you've got the money to be able to do these things, or better yet, if you're able to create community where you don't actually live together, but you know other farmers, and you guys can all share in the tools. Damn it, I hate this because I'm running out of time, you guys, and there's so much more that I want to talk about. Well, you're going to want to get livestock, chickens, cows, and all these kind of things, and you're going to have to figure out how to fence them in. You need irrigation for your plants. You need irrigation for your animals. You need experience. You need to understand about how these things work. Animals get sick. Plants if you're depending on these crops. This is a huge, huge gamble. No matter whether you're a professional too, nobody could tell the weather. If you're growing outdoors, not doing container gardening, like when you're growing on a huge field, and we've had this happen where a fire can come through or huge torrential rains will wash all your seeds, and then you ain't got nothing. This is very precarious, and I think and there are some answers. I just ain't got enough time to do all this stuff. But yeah, there's much planning that goes involved before you take that leap to go live in the country. Really, really think about it. And you know what? The last thing I'm going to leave you guys with is you are fucking married to the farm. When you have animals more than plants, there is no taking one day off, right? The cows need to get milked. The chickens need to get fed. They need to be locked up so that iguanas, which we had in South America, don't come and eat the eggs and the babies and stuff like that. And snakes coming in, big old giant hawks coming. You know, you got turkeys and there's so much that goes with it. You got an aphid infestation within a matter of about a week or so. You can have a huge whitefly aphid infestation on your plants. There's so much that's involved and so precarious. So there's a lot to it. I want to do more. I definitely want to know what you guys want to hear about, maybe my own personal experiences with stuff or some different questions. I love the questions that are coming in. It really helps me out a lot. I hope it brings value to you guys. So that's the show, guys. We're running out of time. It's been nice having you guys here. It's all up and in it. You can check it out on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Apple iTunes, Spotify, all the podcasts and everything else. So as I always say, guys, go out there and have yourself a near-life experience. Don't lose your muchness. Carry on the fire. Human up. Live it, love it, own it. And bone it, my friends.